Okay, let's go ahead and continue with domain 4.4 and now go into the different tools we have. So one tool we're going to talk about is SCAP. This is a suite of standards for automating the management of security settings and vulnerability management. SCAP is most famously used, guys, to actually get endpoints or devices STIG compliant. So you can use a SCAP tool free from the DISA-STIG website to actually harden the device using like a local group policy and to also let you view how it's not compliant. So let me just show you the DISA-STIG website. If you ever want to download the STIG viewer and go through the different STIG library. So it's public, right? Because if you want to use the NIST like risk management or cybersecurity framework, this is one way to do it. So you can download a SCAP tool right here. And as a bonus content in this course, I'm actually going to have a demonstration on how to do SCAP and how to automate the process of hardening your devices. So obviously, if you want to look at the STIGs here and go through the document library and say, hey, I want to see how to STIG a Cisco iOS router, you can download the STIG viewer, download this STIG, and using the STIG viewer, actually see all the things you'll have to harden on a Cisco iOS router to make sure it's compliant with the DoD. And that would be a one-by-one process, right? But with SCAP, it lets you automatically do that. Okay, benchmarks. So benchmarks are standard points of references used to compare current security performance against best practices or industry standards. So what we can do for our benchmarks is take our computer or device that isn't hardened, we haven't done any security assessment on it, just plain. And we can compare that to maybe like CIST, Computer Standard Organization. I don't remember what the actual acronym is, CIS. We can compare that against ISO. We can compare that against NIST standards and see which framework we want to do and then start to harden that, okay, using that benchmark. So we have agent or agentless tools. So agents and agentless tools are methodologies used in monitoring and managing network systems and applications, each with its own set of advantages and deployment consideration. So with agent-based software, the software that's going to be doing our monitoring and our security alerting is going to be installed on the target system. And that's going to provide detailed monitoring and active management capabilities. The con about that is it just takes up resources. If we really cheaped out on our endpoints, they only have 8 gigs of RAM, like a Core i3. If you're installing a resource-intensive agent-based software to do security monitoring, well, your users might not be too happy about that. Then we have agentless. This is where, as you can see down here, a quick example, where we have a server just doing API calls, maybe to endpoints and servers, asking for information to do that monitoring itself over the network without actually being installed. So choosing between the two, it all depends on your network, your priorities, and your resource availability. A SIM, or SIM, however you want to pronounce it, Security Information Event Management Tool. I've talked about this throughout the entire course, but this is a tool that provides real-time analysis of security alerts generated by applications and network hardware. At the end of the day, SIM is like a super tool for cybersecurity and a skill you will need to have. And what I mean by that is managing and configuring SIM tools like Splunk to investigate things on your network. It does log aggregation and event correlation. It does real-time monitoring. It allows you to build dashboards of things you want to be cognizant of. So like if you're doing lifecycle replacement, which is a security function of the organization, you can use a Splunk dashboard, a SIM tool to say, hey, here's our Windows 10 machines in red. Here's our Windows 11 machines in green. We can put a number up and say we have 50 Windows 10, 200 Windows 11, and that can do the active monitoring of that for us. Antivirus. So antivirus software, not only does it do prevention and block malware, it can also alert you as well. So it's designed to detect and prevent and also remediate. So actually remove malware and other malicious software. Like we've talked about throughout the course. Antivirus software does real-time scanning and has 2 different major ways that it's going to detect viruses and malware. Signature-based, which relies on a database of known malware signatures. And then we have heuristic analysis. So this employs advanced algorithms like, using AI or ML to detect previously unknown viruses or new variants of known viruses based on behavior. So this is establishing patterns, a behavior baseline. When we have anomalies or deviations, we're going to get alerted. DLP, so data loss prevention. This is another tool that can be installed on the endpoint that's going to do a lot of different things, but the primary purpose is to stop data exfiltration. So it can also alert you, do data identification. So DLP tools can classify and protect sensitive and business critical data. An example of this, if we need to protect and be in compliance with GDPR, there's multiple plugins for your DLP software that say, okay, make sure that we're actually doing data, like we're scanning for data coming across our system that matches GDPR compliance, okay? It can also do policy enforcement. It can also do incident response for us, automated incident response. SNMP. This is called the Simple Network Management Protocol. This is where we send traps and alert messages from SNMP clients or agents to an SNMP server, and then we can get alerts and information about our network infrastructure, okay? So this gives us the ability to do event notifications, monitoring of our devices, and also sometimes remote management. NetFlow. So NetFlow is a network protocol designed for collecting IP traffic information. So I've shown you this in the previous videos where NetFlow is going to allow us to identify our top talkers to see what applications users are going to the most. Essentially, this gives us good bandwidth monitoring, good traffic analysis at a high level, just like, hey, users love to go to YouTube. And also gives us the ability to do security forensics. So this can give us detailed information about that traffic flow, aiding in identifying the source and nature of security incidences. One thing that just comes to mind, obviously, is with NetFlow, this allows us to see data exfiltration, right, over like a TCP connection. And then, of course, we have our vulnerability scanners, which we probably talked about 6 times in the past 2 sections. Vulnerability scanners are tools used to identify security weaknesses in network systems. So we already know what they do, guys, right? If you're following this course in order, vulnerability scanners are there to help us identify vulnerabilities, identify potential threat vectors, let us know of our increased attack surface, and then we can go through and start patching, start remediating those vulnerabilities. Okay, now let's do our check on learning. We're going to bring up our quiz for domain 4.4. Okay, question 1. What is the primary function of data loss prevention software in an organization's cybersecurity strategy? That is going to be A, to monitor and control endpoint activities to prevent sensitive data from leaving the corporate network. End of the day, DLP software, yes, it can alert us, it can monitor us. It's stopping data exfiltration. Question 2. What is the primary purpose of the security content automation protocol SCAP in cybersecurity? So that's going to be to provide a standardized approach for using specific standards like STIGs to enable automated vulnerability management, measurement, and policy compliance evaluation. It also allows us to do automated hardening, okay? Question 3. In network management, what role do SNMP traps play? So SNMP traps are what we're going to send from like agent to SNMP manager to give us notifications so we can actually start building our SNMP monitoring, right? That's how we get OID information from our network devices, object identifiers, right? Question 4. What is the primary function of vulnerability scanners in cybersecurity? That's going to be C, to identify and report potential vulnerabilities in systems and applications. Question 5. What is the main benefit of using a security, information, and event management SIEM or SIM system? So it's going to be to provide us real-time analysis of security alerts And also the most important thing, right? In this section, that's the answer. It does log aggregation, okay? It allows us to build dashboards to index against all the big data consumed by the SIEM or SIEM, and allows us to do that behavior analysis to create automated remediation of cybersecurity incidences. Question 6. What is the primary purpose of using NetFlow in network security? That's going to be to analyze network traffic patterns for monitoring and anomaly detection. It also allows us to identify our top talkers, right? Identify where all of our bandwidth could potentially be going.